Okay, Carol is starting.
Not quite. One more second. It takes a minute sometimes to load up that section. Okay, now you're good.
Okay, so we're on the record now for whatever you say.
All right. No more cupcakes.
I gotta go. So it's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. And we have a new member, Dave Boscheman, who is not joining us tonight because of a family birthday party, but we'll get a chance to welcome
There you go.
at March. And you may have known of him or followed him in the past. He was on the school committee, so he's been very active in town.
Yeah, he's a good friend. He's a good guy. He's
Terrific.
Yeah.
So he'll be joining us next month.
That's great.
Having said that, so we have a quorum. We'll move on to the first item of
Well,
business.
Mike, before you move on, let me
Yes.
state for the record who actually is here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We have Mark Cady,
Here.
Bob Murphy,
Here.
Mary Sattel, Sal Marinosi, Mike Steers, Helen Woodhouse, and Robert Torsia. Absent would be David Boscheman, who's the new member, and Richard Ross.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So back to our first item is to review the minutes from our meeting of in January, the last meeting where we had one item of business also, which was to review the subdivision on south of Commons, and I can report that that's all moved successfully forward. So thank you for that. Can I have a motion to accept the
moved.
minutes or amend the minutes or whatever people would like?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written. Sal
second.
Marinosi.
Okay, so we'll have a roll call on that. I'll vote aye.
Okay, first, before we do that, I need to clarify. Sal was the one who made the motion, and I believe Mark Cady was the one who made a second. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so just respond after I call your name. Mark Cady,
Aye.
Bob Murphy,
Aye.
Mary Sattel,
Aye.
Sal Marinosi,
Aye.
Bob Torsia,
Aye.
Helen Woodhouse,
Aye.
Mike Steers.
Aye,
Unanimous. Thank you.
thank you. And our item of business this evening is to review a petition for variance on Warren's Point for the Azracs to move two garden sheds. And I'll let Mr. Holland present the petition.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, members. I represent Mr. and Mrs. Joseph Azrac, and Mrs. Azrac was formerly Abigail Condon and has been a lifelong resident on and off with Little Compton as her parent. They own two pieces of property which are back to back Warren's Point. One of them is lot 37-1, which is the subject of this petition. That property is owned by a LLC called the Cottage at Warren's Point. The property in front of that to the south, lot 37-2, is owned by another Rhode Island LLC, the Gatherum, which is a name that goes back a long, long time in Little Compton history. So that they are the one LLC is the petitioner, and the one most adversely affected by this is the one in front, which they own. So they're the most affected every way you look at it. There was up until November 20th a single family house on the subject property, the 37-1. That house they purchased in about 9 years ago. Needs a lot of work, and after giving an architect and a builder the chance to go through it, it became obvious that the best thing to do was to demolish it. So in November, after getting a number of plans together, they went to the building inspector and they got a building permit to demolish as well as to rebuild the house in a slightly different position. No permits are necessary or were necessary in the way of variances to do that work. The sole reason we're before you is that there are two garden sheds there that particularly Mrs. Condon wants to keep and use because she's very much involved in gardening. So what's happening here is that they're moving the house to the east. In other words, away from the road to get away from Grinnell Road, which is busy, particularly in the summer. When the house gets built, it will be almost directly in back of the house in front on lot 37-2. So their new house will be looking out the front towards the ocean, but they won't see it because they're going to see their house in front. As part of the plan here, what they would like to do is to move the garden sheds easterly also, so that basically the garden sheds follow the house. They would like to move after consulting with a landscape architect and the builders. They want to move the sheds so that they move to the east. And you can see we have a plan, Exhibit C, that was attached to the application for the variance. And by moving it to the east and to the south, closer to the boundary line, what they intend to do is to put a garden that serves both purposes. In other words, there's a substantial planting they have for the front of the house on lot 37-1, which comes up to the back of the one on 37-2. So that it's very close. And again, these are two houses that are used by the family. They're not rented. They're not used by anybody else other than the family. So we've asked the zoning board for a variance to allow us to get closer to the southerly line of the lot in question. It is in the side yard, and that's the only variance that we're looking for. By moving the house to the east, what it does is it does help a lot to the north, lot 36-1, which was just purchased not too long ago. It enhances their view, it makes it bigger. The sheds aren't in their view. The only thing that's in front of them is the house that was there, only it opens up the corridor so that they have a better view of the water. Basically, that's what we're looking to do. There's really nothing else that is on the table, and that's why we're coming to the zoning board. We want to be able to have the sheds that are there just moved, and they would be in the side yard. We understand that, but they would be in a better position where they serve both houses and nobody else sees them. And with the plantings, you won't see them from the west side of Grinnell, and you won't see them from the other side, the east side. There is another building on here, which is a studio that Miss Azarack, Miss Condon uses, and she is an artist that enjoys it down here, and she uses that studio, which you can see on the exhibit C that we have there. It's not a place with any plumbing. There's not anybody living in there. There are no guest houses. It's just a single family house for the sole use of the Azarack family. So that's what we're looking for.
So Ray, if I'm correct, these sheds are, the plan says about 6 by 9 or 6, so they're small
I think
buildings. They're just
like
empty. There's nothing in the shed, no plumbing, no fixtures, no nothing.
No, there's no, in fact, in the affidavit that Mr. Azarack we're going to file with the zoning board says there's no plumbing, there's no electricity, there's no nothing. They're just garden sheds.
And are they when I drove by, they appear to have been there a long time. I mean, they're not your typical garden shed that you'd buy and have delivered to your house, even though they're about that size. They're a sort of a unique architecture and character in their own right.
Correct. And that's one of the reasons why that the architect, as well as the landscape people, wanted to keep it, because it's going to be in keeping with what the house is the new house is going to be like, and it complements the house in front. It's not the kind of shed that you would get at, Home Depot or a place like that. So that's why one of the things they wanted to keep, because it does go with the house. Clearly, the easiest thing to do would be just knock it down and say the heck with it, and they don't want to do that. They want to keep the sheds. There's two of them.
Ray, I have a question. It's
Yeah.
Mark. It says in here that the new house will be directly behind the house that's on 37-2, but the gardens and these sheds will be in between the two houses, correct?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Because it says directly behind, like it's going to be on the property line.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, directly behind it in the side of line. In other
Okay.
words, if you were standing on the south of the lot 37-2, you won't even see those because it'll be house, the sheds
Right,
in
if
the
I was-
garden, and then the other house.
Yeah,
And
if I was
same way-
standing at the existing cellar hole that's there now, I would only see the house in front of me.
That's correct.
Okay.
One house will
then-
be behind the other.
And right underneath it, it refers to lot 37-2. And then it says it's abutted by lot 37-2. I assume that should have been 37-1. That's on the exhibit A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 6th paragraph down.
Wait a minute,
It doesn't matter. It's not important. It's just, I'm sure it was a misprint. But
what are you referring to? I'm sorry, Mark. I
the
don't-
explanation, which is
Okay.
exhibit A,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What was it that you said? The new dwelling?
it starts off with Mr. and Mrs. Azrek own all of the entity entered in both the Gotham lot, which is 37-2, and the cottage at Warren's Point, which is 37-2.
That's 37-1.
Correct.
That should be 31.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ray, Bob Murphy,
Yep.
on 37-2, isn't there some sort of structure that's already over the line on
Yeah, there's a
37?
little bit there. I think it's a fireplace. I think it's a little bit over it at one. Okay, this subdivision was done long before people paid attention to the lot lines. And I think Mike might even know this better than I do. We didn't do the title to it. And we didn't represent the Azracs when they bought lot 37-2. But I think this whole property was owned by one person at one time. And, they put the fireplaces up, or the fireplace, and didn't really pay too much attention to where the line was. I mean, 'cause if you own both sides of it, you really weren't too concerned.
I don't see
I don't
any.
think it's
I don't-
actually across the line. When I went out there and looked, it's a patio with a fireplace on the end, but it looks like it ends just before the property. I mean, only inches, but
I
doesn't
don't
look
see
like it
any,
crosses it.
I don't see any reason why moving these small sheds would make any impact on this property.
There were two things I think that impact. The guy on the west side of the road with the plantings that are going to go, and in other words, there's going to be basically a house, plantings, and then another house. From the west side of the road, he's not even going to get to see these sheds that amount to anything. The guy behind or to the north, lot 36-1, is going to have less interference in his view than he has now. He's going to pick up more of a view. And then the people over to the east, their view is farther to the east out towards Nantucket. So they don't even look this way. So it only enhances the view of a couple of people. It doesn't detract from them, and they won't even see these sheds. And again, these are two sheds now. They're going to be two sheds when we get through, hopefully.
Ray, I have one more question. On the southeast, southwest corner, it shows that there was an easement, just a small dotted line that stated easement. Do you know what that was?
Wait a minute now. I'm sorry, Mark.
It would be on the southwest corner of the lot of 37-1.
Okay,
It didn't show anything on 37.2. It just showed it on 37.1.
oh, no, I think what happens is, that I think that part of the driveway for 37-2, it's a circular driveway, and I think that's where it is. I think that's part of the driveway in 37-2 comes down to lot 37-1.
So it's an access easement.
An accident, right? In other words, it's a circular driveway, and that's a little piece there that's what that's for.
Ray, this is Sal Marinosi. How big are these sheds? I don't have a drawing here. Are they potting sheds, just
They're 6 by 9.
By
6
9.
by 9?
Yeah.
Wow,
They're small.
They're very small.
they're very
Very
small.
They're about 68
Uh,
square feet, 60, 70,
Yeah,
8. So it's at 8 by 8, 8 by 9, that type.
yeah.
Are
All
they
right,
conforming
so
where they're
what-
located now?
Sorry,
Are they conforming where they're locating now?
I think they are. I think they are, but I think part of them is in the side yard. This is going to extend them being in the side yard more. But what it does is it gets closer to the house to the south, and it allows us to have a garden area there that the sheds fit into it and become part of an overall plan that makes it
They're
the
not
area
really
between the two houses
And-
better than it is
moving
now.
those sheds very far, right?
I'm sorry.
I said, they're not really moving the sheds very far.
No, it's
No.
as you can see,
17
it's
feet, right?
Yeah,
not many feet at all.
it's not many feet.
So, I mean, I don't really
So
see
it's-
a hardship.
So the other thing, there's no foundation on these sheds, correct? They're just sitting on top of the ground on some stone dunnage or some blocks.
They look
Correct.
like they have the 2x4 cinder block. It's just a flat block. They're sitting on that
All
in the
right.
4 corners.
All right. Gee, I don't know what, I really don't have a problem with it, Mark. And as far as, I think they're almost portable, in my view, and they're potting sheds. A lot of times they have potting sheds and they actually do move them around, 'cause, where you're gonna plant, and they move them around in reference to the garden. So,
Given the shape of them and so forth, I think maybe they carry, a couple of shovels in them and a rake or something, and maybe a claw or some, but I mean,
Yeah.
you'd be hard pressed to get a person in it. That's how small they are.
especially you, Mark. I mean, I could get in them.
Yeah.
All right, Sal.
Would you say?
Right.
Would you say?
Mark, why don't you go ahead and make a motion that it really doesn't impact our comp plan and what have you.
I make a motion that this has a minimal effect on the comprehensive plan, but it does meet 4 of the goals in the comprehensive plan. The first one is H3.C, which is promote energy efficiency, which the new home will do. Then L1 capital A, LU1 capital A, which is housing rehab, and that's what they'll be doing by tearing that one down and building a new one, is doing rehab work. And then land use 1 capital A, which is conforming with all of the zoning regulations. And then LU1 capital C, which it has no impact on the scenic resources.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Roll call, please. Should I-
Sal Marinosi, aye.
Mark Katie, aye.
Bob Murphy, aye.
Ellen Woodhouse, aye.
Mary Satel, aye.
Mike Steers, aye.
Bob Torsia?
No.
Okay. So 1 opposed and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the We did get some correspondence relative to some new FEMA information, which I think everyone has, and the Westport Planning Board is having a public hearing on their floodplain districts. So we need a motion to file the correspondence.
So moved. Sal Marinosi.
I'll
Second.
second.
Is anybody opposed to filing the correspondence? No?
Seeing no one opposed, it passes unanimous.
Thank you. So I think that concludes the business for February 3rd.
But we do
Second,
have.
thank
on
you all
the-
very much.
The same
Hey,
old
Sal,
question.
are we setting new records here or what?
Yeah, we are. It's good.
Wow. I mean,
Okay, everybody stay well. Look forward to
Yes.
seeing you in March.
See you in March.